Hey everybody! This is our quick blast on what is due in your rhetorical analysis paper. To start off, I hope you're all doing well. I hope wherever you are safe and healthy. Please do keep in touch if you need anything. I promise to keep this video short, but I want you to know what I'm looking for in your paper. So I'm going to go over some basic points very quickly on what I'm looking for in your rhetorical analysis paper. So please take note of this. I will also post a photo of this board. This is your cheat sheet. So first things first, rhetorical analysis paper. I want it to be 800 words long as a minimum. That's about 3 pages. It is due Thursday the 9th by midnight. Please post it to Canvas, Microsoft Word documents only. So those are the basics. It's also 20% of your grade, so keep that in mind. Now, your first task is you're going to pick which of the 4 pieces you would like to focus on. We've got George Orwell, Allen Ginsberg, Martin Luther King, and Joanne Beard, which you all should have read by now because your homework is due tomorrow on it. Now, to structure your paper, you don't have as much space as you had in your first paper. You are not telling a story here. This is not your opinion. This is actually a research-based paper. So keep in mind what I'm looking for with the structure is you need an opening paragraph, the body of the paper, and then a conclusion. In your opening paragraph, I'm looking for a signal phrase. By now, you should all know what a signal phrase is. It's a statement where you introduce the author and the piece of writing. Then in your first paragraph, you may also give us a brief summary of the piece. For example, if you're doing Orwell, give us a very basic idea of what the piece was about. You also don't have to put the summary here. It might come later, but this might be a logical place for it. The one thing your opening paragraph must have, other than a signal phrase, is a thesis statement. We will come back to this, but your thesis must be arguable, specific, and related to something in rhetoric. So we'll come back to that. The body of your paper. I want you to have support and evidence for your analysis. I want you to be specific. You might paraphrase some of these 4 sources, or you might quote them. That's completely appropriate. You also may put some of your summary in the actual body of the paper, and that's completely fine too. We will get to the grading checklist, but that's what I'm looking for in the body of the paper. You will need a brief conclusion, just like you need a brief introduction. In a good conclusion, you will restate that main argument or your thesis in slightly different language than you use. There should be no repetition of language. You're going to conclude your paper by bringing your claims together. You want to make a statement to leave us with. I call this a toward statement. So ideally, you're going to look back on the paper and summarize what you said, and then you're going to look forward into a more overarching statement. Maybe Allen Ginsberg's America is still relevant because he used anaphora, and that's still a technique we use today, or we may use in the future. Maybe Martin Luther King's speech still resonates now. So look back on your paper and then look toward the future in that last sentence. Now, grading checklist. This is the most important part. I am literally going to check each of these off when I grade you. First thing I'm requiring in this paper, I need you to mention what genre the piece is. Likely it's more than one. For example, Allen Ginsberg wrote a poem. It is a political piece. It is also a performance. Those are 3 valid genres. Purpose. Why did the author write it? Again, you don't know for certain. Nobody knows why the author wrote anything, but we can speculate, and I want you to speculate there. Audience. Who is this piece written for? We talked a lot about audience in class, so I want us to do that with these pieces. Again, there's probably more than one audience. Then we've got the appeals, which you all should know by now, but just to summarize, I need you to find an example of each of them. That I know that's tricky. Ethos, pathos, and logos, you may struggle to find an example, but you really will be able to. I promise you there are multiple examples in each of these pieces of each of these appeals. So not only are you going to talk about the appeals, but you're also going to define them. I want you to tell me, for example, Joanne Beard establishes ethos, which is the author's credibility or her trustworthiness, by including details on X, Y, and Z. Or pathos, the emotional connection to the reader, by doing X, Y, and Z. Or perhaps Martin Luther King establishes logos by citing specific examples of states. That is a logical appeal. That is facts. But I do need each of these mentioned briefly with a very quick definition. Now, notes on the paper. This is not an opinion paper. I can't stress that enough. I actually am not concerned at all with if you agree or disagree with what these pieces are arguing. Likely you will disagree with some of the things you read. What I am concerned with is not your opinion, but you are being asked what the author is saying, and you are analyzing how they are saying it, and if this approach is rhetorically effective. That gets us back to your thesis statement. Your thesis should talk about whether or not the author's approach was rhetorically effective. And you're going to use specifics. Maybe it's word choice, maybe it's tone, maybe it's verb tense, maybe it's delivery or repetition. But please keep this in mind. You also will not be using I in this paper. There is no I needed. Now this is a little bit different than I had intended, but given the constraints of us not meeting in person, I am not requiring you to do a references page. There's no works cited page, and you do not need to cite things in the actual paper. That said, if you take a quote directly from one of these 4 pieces, you will need to put quotation marks around it. Please do not plagiarize. But also, I don't want to make this any more difficult than it needs to be, so do not worry about a works cited page. These are the main points on your paper. Now, I want to jump ahead and talk about your homework for Wednesday, the 1st. I'm trying to combine these into smaller videos so you don't have to listen to me talk as much. So I'm combining our homework with the paper. So keep in mind everything we're doing at this point is toward your rhetorical analysis paper. We're not doing anything else. So by Wednesday, please select which of these 4 pieces you'll focus on. Keep in mind, if you do Ginsberg's America or Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, you're going to be talking about not just the written text, but the actual delivery of it. So you're going to pick which of these you're writing about. You are going to reread it. Read it actively. Take notes. Write in the margins. Make it look sloppy. Then your written homework for Wednesday is I want you to write your thesis statement, as well as your entire opening paragraph. You're going to do that and you are going to post it on Canvas. What I'm looking for in that opening paragraph, again, going back to here, I want you to have a signal phrase. I want you to introduce what your paper is going to focus on. Which part of the analysis are you picking? Is it word choice? Is it something else? Then you may summarize that piece briefly. Keep in mind, I'm your audience here, and you're going to assume I've read it, but I don't have it in front of me. So you're going to give me enough summary to anchor me. Then you are going to put your thesis statement in somewhere in that paragraph. Again, it must be specific, and it must be arguable. A bad thesis statement would be, Allen Ginsberg wrote America in the 1950s to convey a message, or Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech has affected people throughout time. Those are not arguable theses. An arguable thesis statement takes a specific stand on something that one of these authors is using rhetorically. Something that I could say, I disagree with you, but I'm waiting to see how you support it. So again, for homework by Wednesday, I need to see your thesis statement. We're going to share these with each other. You're going to workshop each other's theses, so spend a lot of time on that one sentence. People who do well on this paper have a good thesis. It is half the struggle. You will not be able to get an A on this paper if you do not have a good thesis statement. So please keep all of that in mind. And again, I am very accessible if you need help, if you have questions, or if you need anything. Please do reach out to me. I've been getting a lot of emails and I really appreciate that. This is a hard time for everyone and I really do appreciate you all caring enough to watch this video and putting up with me talking to myself. As promised, I will be feeding dogs. One of them is missing though, so it's gonna be just 2 of them for now. It's gonna be Bandit and Lily. Would you like a treat? Oh, you would like a treat. Okay. Oh. Yep, help yourself. Oh, that's it. Oh, you're standing. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.